Hello everyone and welcome back. So today, we are talking about something you probably washed, brushed, or maybe even cursed at in the mirror while trying to fix a stubborn cowlick this morning. Most of us just see it as, a purely cosmetic feature. But today, I'm going to show you how those seemingly mundane strands on your scalp are actually high-tech biological USB drives. Seriously, we are going to completely change the way you look at human hair. Look at this idea. Hair is dead matter, but it reveals some of the most alive processes inside you. This is the core paradox that's going to frame our entire explainer today. Because what you see as hair is actually made of dead keratin, right? It doesn't feel pain, you can cut it, and obviously it doesn't hurt. And yet, despite being biologically dead, your body uses it to write its ongoing living story. It is this perfect, enduring record of what is happening deep inside your cells. To uncover exactly how that works, here is our roadmap. First, we'll look at the biological memory strip. Second, the physics of growth. Third, evolution and sensory antennas. And finally, the psychology and economy. We're going way beyond shampoo today.
Okay, let's dive right into part 1, the biological memory strip and your health timeline.
Think about the microscopic cellular archive that is literally sitting on your scalp right now. You know how a tree builds rings that record years of weather and climate? Well, every single centimeter of your hair records your biological weather. Because it grows so slowly over time, everything you experience gets permanently recorded right along its length. We're talking your stress levels, your daily nutrition, any exposure to toxins, and your hormonal shifts. They are all captured in that dead keratin. It's actually so incredibly precise that scientists can take just one single strand of your hair and literally reconstruct months of your personal health history. The big takeaway here is that hair is actually way less about growth and much more about biological preservation.
Moving right along to Section 2, the physics of growth, covering cycles and texture. So we know it hair stores, but how does the body actually manufacture this complex memory strip? Well, it comes down to the physics of growth. And there is a huge misconception out there that our hair just grows continuously, kind of like a conveyor belt. It absolutely doesn't. It follows a very specific 3-part rhythm. Step 1 is anagen, which is the active growth phase. Step 2 is catagen, a brief transition period. And step 3 is telogen, the resting and shedding phase. At any given moment, different hairs all over your head are in completely different phases. So, you know that panic you might feel in the shower when you see hair loss? Very often, that's just a timing problem. Under stress, illness, or even simply aging, this beautiful, rhythmic system just desynchronizes. What looks like permanent loss is often just a temporary shift in that underlying rhythm.
Now here's a wild concept. Hair is what biologists call a luxury tissue. Growing and maintaining it demands a really hefty, energetically expensive supply of protein, iron, zinc, and B vitamins. And because it's a luxury, your body reacts to illness or scarcity by ruthlessly cutting off the supply. It's always going to prioritize keeping your heart beating over keeping your hair looking shiny. Iron gets prioritized for your vital organs. Resources are diverted strictly for survival. That is exactly why your hair quality will often decline significantly right before a serious illness becomes visible anywhere else. Your body is incredibly smart. It suspends the luxury to save the life.
But it's not just biology. It's also literal physics. Take your hair texture. Whether you have straight hair or curly hair isn't merely a genetic roll of the dice. It's a direct result of microscopic mechanical physics playing out in real time. Straight hair is the result of symmetrical follicle geometry. Curly hair, on the other hand, comes from asymmetrical growth. That means the follicle actually produces more cells on one side than the other, which literally forces the hair to bend and coil as it pushes out. You get this uneven distribution of keratin proteins, and those mechanical forces at the microscopic level twist the strand. So your curls are quite literally biology behaving like physics.
All right, let's zoom out a bit for Section 3, evolution and sensory antennas. We're going way beyond cosmetics here. If hair is so energetically expensive to grow, why did human beings keep it at all? I mean, evolution didn't just randomly leave patches behind, it strategically curated them. Scalp hair stayed because it protects our really vulnerable brains from intense solar heat. Eyelashes were kept because they act as a physical barrier to protect our eyes from debris. And that fine body hair we did keep, it actually aids in sweat evaporation, which helps us thermoregulate. Evolution didn't just forget to remove our hair, it highly optimized it.
And this curated placement serves another incredibly wild purpose. Every single hair follicle on your body is connected to nerve endings. Even the absolute tiniest movement of a hair is immediately detected by your brain. Think about when you get goosebumps in a creepy room. That isn't just a reaction to the cold, it's your body activating millions of tiny antennas. Long before complex vision fully evolved, hair acted like a primary radar system, helping organisms literally feel threats and subtle changes in their environment.
Which brings us to a really fascinating reframe on baldness. We almost always hear that hair loss is just this genetic flaw linked to hormonal sensitivity. But from an evolutionary standpoint, it goes so much deeper. Traits linked to hair loss are also strongly linked to maturity, dominance signaling, and metabolic efficiency. In evolutionary terms, losing hair may have historically signaled age-based authority and status within a group. So it might not be a flaw at all, but rather a byproduct of traits that were highly advantageous for our ancestors to signal exactly who was in charge.
We actually see a similarly deep biological truth with gray hair. Hair color isn't fixed. It's this incredibly delicate chemical compromise managed by two types of melanin. So when your hair turns gray, it's not just getting older. It is the visible outcome of your body losing the ability to manage oxidative damage, essentially cellular wear and tear, at a microscopic level. Stress, aging, and just daily wear and tear shift this delicate chemical balance. Your gray hairs are the visible flags of microscopic oxidative stress.
And that brings us to our final section, the psychology and economy, focusing on the invisible forces at play. Remember that delicate growth cycle we discussed earlier? Well, your emotional state can physically hack into that system. Emotional states physically alter our hormone levels. When someone experiences severe trauma or chronic stress, it can trigger a condition called telogen effluvium. This is where that stress physically pushes the hair completely prematurely into the resting and shedding phase. Hair is profoundly unique here. It is one of the very few tissues in the human body where invisible psychological trauma leaves a visible, physical trace that you can actually see and hold right in your hands.
And because this biological timeline is so incredibly visible and so deeply tied to our personal identity and health, we place immense cultural value on it. I mean, we are talking about a global hair and beauty industry that is currently valued at hundreds of billions of dollars.
But it goes so far beyond just selling shampoo. Natural human hair is a massively traded global commodity. Think about the famous temple hair markets in India, where hair offered in religious devotion and ritual is gathered, processed, and then exported in the millions of tons worldwide. It is a profound irony, isn't it? Something that is biologically dead sits right at the intersection of religious cultural identity and incredibly lucrative international commerce. Dead keratin is quite literally driving living economies across the globe.
Hair seems so trivial because it's so visible and so silent, but in reality, as we've seen, it is a daily masterclass in biology, physics, psychology, economics, and evolution. So the next time you look in the mirror, ask yourself, what is your dead hair signaling to the world right now? What story is your personal biological memory strip telling? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you walk away with a completely new appreciation for the fascinating science sitting right on top of your head. See you next time.